Hey guys, welcome to the Magfed Ranch Paintball channel, and today I'm going to be doing some Magfed myth busting. But before I get into it guys, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, share, and comment. Okay guys, so today's Magfed myth busting topic is going to be what is what is on everyone's mind, and that is, does length really matter? And I know, all the jokes aside, right, all you dirty minds out there, what I'm referring to is, does barrel length, and specifically FSR rifled barrel, right? Rifled capable barrel lengths, do those lengths matter? Okay? And so for you guys here, I have different sample sizes of different barrel lengths with our different markers, guys, to obviously showcase that. And of course, I'm going to break down the different lengths, pros and cons, obviously, different builds, that type of stuff what we associate with the different lengths. Okay, guys? So starting from the left, we have our Honey Badger marker clone here. Okay, guys? This one has a 6-inch barrel that I've attached the SOCOM suppressor from MCS to. Guys, go check out that video where I give you guys a review of the SOCOM suppressor from MCS. But as you guys can see here, it's a 6-inch barrel, shorty rifle barrel. It's a hammerhead barrel, guys. You guys know us here at Magfed Ranch. We love our hammerhead barrels. Okay. Moving down the line, we have our MR18 Mod 1 marker clone. And this is a 10-inch hammerhead barrel, guys, for this build. Beautiful build. Definitely one of my favorite builds, and I think just an overall great marker to play with. Size, accuracy. All right, well, I'll get into that here shortly. Next on the list we have is our MR4A1 SOP Mod Block 2 FSP build. So obviously this is a clone of the SOP Mod Block 2 M4 FSP, which stands for front sight post. And this one has a 14-inch barrel, guys. This one on note as well too. This one has a really cool setup. It has a Hawk 3x magnification crossbow scope with an offset AMD red dot. Really nice setup, guys. I think this is going to be, obviously this setup right here is already the future of our military arms, right? Kind of what our special forces and military guys are using, with a magnification LPVO with an offset red dot. But I think that's going to be the next wave for FSR and Magfed markers as well too, guys. Before I get into the next length, guys, we also have other links as well too. As you guys know, check out MCS's website, the hammerhead barrels. They go from 3 inches all the way out to 20 inches, guys. So they have a bunch of links in between as well too. For example, we have our 12-inch barrel here from Hammerhead on our MR417 Assaulter clone build. And then, of course, before I get into our MR12 Mod O build, we also have our Hammerhead 16-inch barrel here on our SDMR build clone. Okay, guys? And that one's a 16-inch build. Then, of course, we're stepping up to an 18-inch Hammerhead barrel here, guys, on our MR18 Mod O build. And this one, like I said, guys, this one's a really nice mark as well. Guys, go check out the accuracy video that I shot with this marker. But as you guys can see, really good accuracy at all the distances from 40, 60 to 80 yards. And then last, but of course not least, we have our 20-inch hammerhead barrel on our MR110 SASM, right? Semi-automatic sniper marker build. And this is a 20-inch barrel from Hammerhead. I will be shooting the sniper accuracy tests here, guys, in the near future, so look out for that. But this is definitely going to get a little bit increased accuracy at the longer distances. Okay, so let's talk about pros and cons, and of course, is there a significant difference with the different barrels? And guys, I'm here to tell you guys, yes, there is. But of course, everything comes with some type of caveats, some type of criterias and prerequisites, right? So just like it follows the trends of almost the real steel rifles, guys. With the longer barrels, you are going to get better accuracy at not only the close distances, but at the further distances as well. But most noticeably, of course, as the distances go further and further, right? The supposedly long-range capability of first strike rounds at 300 feet per second, of course, right? Because we're limited to how fast we can shoot our first strike rounds in paintball in general, right? With our field rules, is supposedly right around 150 yards. Okay, that's kind of seems to be the consensus online that everyone is stating. Even the first strike themselves, they're saying 450 feet is kind of the max range of our first strike rounds. But guys, I'm definitely going to want to test that out this year for you guys. But based upon that kind of known limitation, the different barrel lengths are going to give you different results, you know, from 0 yards out to 150, okay? So let's start from, once again, left to right. And let's talk about the pros, cons, builds, you know, all the different variables that you're going to get from the shorter length barrels all the way to the longer length barrels. Okay, so like I was stating earlier, this is a really cool build, guys. Obviously very maneuverable, and when it comes to appearance, let's talk about appearance sake first, right? Because your barrel length, that's going to dictate that aesthetic appearance of your build. Now, some of you guys out there, you know, you guys might not be like, hey, function over form, right? I'm only concerned on how well the marker performs, not really concerned on how well it looks. But for a vast majority of us Magfed players out there, looks and obviously the realism, right? Especially if we can clone our markers to look like the real steel rifles, that's a huge importance for us. So, of course, one of the determining factors for that criteria is definitely going to be barrel length, right? So, with the Honey Badger, the barrel is typically right at 6 inches, like the one that we have here on our marker. And so, you'll notice that even with the suppressor on the Honey Badger, it's pretty much the exact same length as our MR18. And so that's kind of one of the cool things, just like the real steel rifles, guys, right? One of the cool things about having a shorter barrel is that you can attach a suppressor to complete the look of your build, but still have a very maneuverable, short, handy marker to play with, right? Especially for CQB, especially for run and gun assaulter type positions, okay? And then, of course, you know, the suppressor, like I said, I'm very curious on how that's going to affect accuracy, guys. I'm going to do test videos for you this year with suppressor and without suppressor, and really see if the accuracy test is going to get affected by that. But as you guys can see already, I mean, just the compactness of it, because of having the shorter barrel, is definitely an advantage, okay? It's why moving on to the MR18 next, which has a 10-inch barrel, this particular marker, obviously it's clone of the Mark 18 rifles, right? This rifle was a very popular setup for our special forces, right? Because the reason for that is the balance. Right, guys, I want to keep directing this channel to you guys, but it's Modern Tactical Shooting. Go check out that channel. But one of the videos that that gentleman named Jeff Gerwich, he posted a video of a review of the Mark 18 on his channel, and on it he states that just the balance of the Mark 18, it was so well done, especially even with the Surefire suppressor that those guys were rocking on it, that it was their favorite go-to rifle when they would go out on patrols or out on missions, right? And so I feel the same way with our, obviously, paintball markers. And you don't sacrifice too much accuracy, which I'm going to touch on next, right? So with the shorter barrels, guys, you know, 10 inches and below, typically, you're going to get a less accuracy and precision compared with the 12-inch and up barrels. In our testing, we've seen about, you know, a 2 to 3 inch difference. So Guys, go check out those videos that I shot. But you know, from 40 yards out to 80 yards, you start noticing a kind of a gap in precision versus the longer barreled markers. So at 40 yards, for example, you might get like an 8-inch group, you know, sometimes decently, sometimes right around 6-inch groups on average, right? But it's usually around 6 to 8-inch groups at 40 yards with the 10-inch or less barreled markers. But with the longer barrels, you're usually getting about a tighter 2-inch group with the longer barrels. But the trade-off, of course, is just the handiness of it, the maneuverability of it. And like I said, aesthetics is a huge part, guys. Just kind of how cool this marker build is. Usually with these marker guys, let's talk about optics real quick, right? As you guys can see here with the MR18 build or our Honey Badger build, we typically like to pair that with just a lightweight red dot. Even though we have the adjustable riser on here, which is pretty heavy, but the adjustable riser obviously is for cheek clearance, guys. With our goggles, our heads are gonna sit up a little bit higher. So, you know, you want at least a 2.5-inch riser for your optic. So that way you're not having to kink your head over to be able to see the reticle. You can keep your head up and pretty much your reticle is in line with your eyes with that rise, okay? But like you'll notice that obviously weight, which is like the next aspect I want to talk about with the shorter barrel markers, right? The weight is going to come into huge play. For example, on our website, if you guys check out our website at Magfed Ranch Paintball, the MR18 build raised really close to the real deal Mark 18. It's right around 6 pounds. Of course, you know, unloaded, no optics, no handguard, foregrip, right? So just the marker with iron sights and an empty magazine is right around 6 pounds. And a Honey Badger up close, of course, is going to even be lighter than that. So it's just a very lightweight setup that you can play all day with. Still decently accurate out to 80 yards. Obviously capable of hitting targets past 100 yards, right, guys? Like I said, you know, the limitation of the first strike round is about 150 yards, so these markers are still going to be able to reach out to that distance, although it's more point area point instead of target point, right? Point of aim instead of obviously area target. So the precision won't be there at the longer distances versus the longer barrels. So let's get into kind of the mid-length barrels right here, guys, and that's when we start talking about like the 12-inch or the 14-inch barrels. And this is a really just an overall good setup for kind of like close range and long distance range. Obviously, it's slightly heavier than the shorty markers with the red dots because obviously we're pairing it with a crossbow scope, which of course is heavier. And then of course, if you add a offset red dot on it, that's going to add a little bit more ounces to the weight. So the weight of this marker is significantly heavier than the MR18 and the Honey Badger, especially with the full length handguard, right? Like an all steel aluminum handguard. But it's still relatively light, it's still handy, it's doable. For quick, you know, for quick gameplay, I don't think this will really get you fatigued, but maybe for long day gameplays, scenario gameplays where you're kind of going on missions and having to hump this around all day, it might be better off going with the shorter barrels. But what you're going to get, the trade-off is that you're going to get an increased accuracy and precision at the longer distances, right? So for example, at the 40-yard range, you might be getting more closer to, on average, to a 5 or 6 inch grouping. And then of course at the 80-yard distances where you might be getting like a 10 to 15 inch grouping with the shorter barrels on average. Of course, guys, there's always going to be some times where you're going to get tighter groupings, but on average those are the groupings you should expect. So, you know, from 10 to 15 with the shorter barrels, we're looking at maybe, you know, 8 to 12, right? About a 2 inch difference with the 14-inch and 12-inch barrels. Something I also forgot to mention, guys, too, with the barrel lengths is going to be the first strike rounds themselves. That's going to hugely come into play because, as I've stated on other videos, guys, there's huge variances within a 600 round case of first strike. It's going to have different diameters, different weights, even just different, like, blemishes and that type of stuff. So I've stated this in other videos or in my posts, right, that out of a case of 600, typically we find at least 100 rounds that weren't suitable for match grade quality. So, definitely suitable for just, you can go play with them. I'm not saying that you can't, but if you really want your rounds to be consistent, 100 rounds right off the bat are not suitable already. And out of the remaining 500, you have huge variances in those different metrics that I just stated. So what we've determined in our testing, and that's the reason why we have the different rounds on our website, guys, right? From the Mark 68 Mod O to the Mod 1 to the Mod 2, and of course to the Mod 3, which we consider the sniper rounds, right? So in our testing, we've determined that with the shorter barrels like the Honey Badger and the MR18, the Mark 68 Mod O rounds seems to get tighter groupings, especially at the closer distances. At the 80-yard distances, it's not as noticeable, but at the 40 to 60-yard distances, the groupings tend to get a little bit tighter with the Mark 68 Mod O rounds. And guys, full disclosure, once again, I've stated this before, but those rounds are made by First Strike. They're not made by us. It's just that we go through the process of sorting it and obviously dialing it in for the different barrel setups and build setups that we build, right, and that we've tested and used. As we get to the longer barrels, right, like the 12 or 14-inch intermediate barrel lengths, guys, we found that the Mark 68 Mod 1, kind of our general purpose rounds, work really well. Gives consistent results that I mentioned, right, like 6-inch groups at 40 yards, 8-inch groups at 60 yards, and then of course 10 to 12-inch groups at 80 yards, right? Those work really well with the 12 and the 14-inch barrels. And as we get into the longer barrels, like our 16-inch barrels, or of course our DMM setups, like this MR12 Mod O marker, the general purpose rounds, of course, are still accurate, guys, right? In those videos, you'll see the MR12 Mod O, it got, 7-inch groups at 80 yards. And on average, that's what you should expect with your longer 16 to 18-inch barrels, guys. And 8-inch groups or less. And you'll notice at the 60-yard and at the 40-yard distance, we're talking 2-inch groups or less, right? So it's like 5-inch groups to 4-inch groups at the 40 yards, right? 6-inch groups on average to 8-inch groups at the 60 yards. And then, like I said, 8-inch groups or less at the 80 yards. It just seems to, with the longer barrels, it seems to stabilize the round better and better as the distances go further and further. And when you pair that with like our DMM rounds, right, our Mark 68 Mod 2 rounds, it's going to give you that consistency even more, right? So unlike real steel firearms, guys, unfortunately the rounds are not like as consistent, like let's say with like a Mark 262 Mod 1 round from Black Hills, right? It's not going to be match grade quality ammo like that. Or of course, like with real cartridges, even like a 77 grain open tip match round, our FSR rounds are not going to be as consistent as real cartridges. But it's all about probability. The more consistent we can make our rounds, and of course with the longer barrels, which adds to the consistency of the rifling, of the spinning of the FSR rounds for the longer distances, your group sizes are going to have those averages, right? And so at an 80-yard distance, whereas the shorter barrels might get a 10 to 15-inch group, which 10 inches is decent, right? But if it starts widening it to 15 inches, we can have a miss, right, at those distances, because the average width of a man-sized target, right, just a normal human male, is about 19 inches. And so if you have a 15-inch group variance, you might miss the target at 80 yards. So, you know, the more you can get your first strike rounds to be consistent and dialed in, and then, of course, using the rifle barrels, and if you can get close to a 10-inch, and like I said, sometimes you get, you know, even better results from time to time, it will ensure that you get those hits out to those distances and not miss your target. And, of course, like I said, as you start getting to the longer barrel lengths, right, like the 14, 16, and 18-inch barrels, those groups are even smaller. So now your probability of hitting your target, a man-sized target, right, out to 80 yards and beyond is going to be guaranteed more, right? So if you have a 8-inch group or less at 80 yards, the probability of you hitting a 19-inch wide target is going to be pretty high, okay? Now, before I get into the last barrel lengths, guys, the sniper barrel length of 20 inches, let's talk about optics real quick, because as we move into the DMM markers, not to say that you couldn't use the crossbow scopes on the shorter barrels, guys. I mean, honestly, I think this paired with like an MR18 or a Honey Badger will work really well as well. But of course, it's a trade-off, right? You're adding weight to a system. And we've talked about this on some of our other videos, guys, but the reticle, which is obviously more of like a crossbow, you know, kind of magnification scope type of reticle with hash marks and, of course, different distance gauges reticles, it's not as fast as a red dot, right? And, of course, with the eye relief, you know, typically it's about 2 to 3 inches is where the eye relief is on these crossbow scopes. You know, you gotta have to have obviously your head placement in the correct distance to be able to pick up that reticle. Whereas the red dot is just really quick, right? You literally pull it up, you see it, you put it on your target, and it's good to go. So, you know, if you want a combination of both the best worlds, right, the best of both worlds, you might want to run this setup with the offset red dot. But if you just really want a quick run and gun assaulter CQB distance marker, and you want a lighter setup, so for less fatigue, it would probably be better just to pair it up with just a red dot. And you can still, like I said, guys, using the riser, having the correct holds, you can still hit your targets out to 80 yards and beyond fairly decent. It's just not as quick and as consistent and as obviously accurate and precision as the magnification with the BDC reticles, right? So give it or take. You just kind of have to decide which one and what role you're more suited, you're trying to make your build for. And last but not least, guys, we have our 20-inch rifle barreled on our MR110 clone here. And once again, at the longer distances, you're going to get a 2-inch improvement, right? So at 60 inches, at 80 yards, you should see on average 6-inch groups, right around there, compared to the 8-inch groups with the 18-inch barrels. And then, of course, at the closer distance, like 60 and 40 yards, you're going to get more of that consistent around 4 to 5-inch groups at 40 yards. And, of course, 5 to 7-inch groups at the 60-yard distance. It's all about consistency. You'll notice that from 40 to 80 yards, if the barrel is longer, and, of course, if you pair it up with match-grade ammo, the accuracy doesn't dramatically drop off. So it's not like you go from, like, all of a sudden, a 2-inch group at a 20-yard zero. It doesn't automatically just go to, like, 10 inches at 40 yards. However, it doesn't dramatically go from, like, a 2-inch group at 20 yards, and all of a sudden it's only a 3-inch group at 40 yards, and then a 5-inch group at 60 yards. You'll notice that with the longer barrels, you'll still get head size groupings, right? 6 inches or less at the middle to longer distances. A lot of that, of course, guys, could be the way I'm shooting the marker, right, too, our trigger press, and just maybe me shooting the marker. But you know, countless testings that I've done, I've just seen that that's kind of the results you should expect, right? So it's just those groupings stay small and they stay consistent even as the distances go further and further. And then of course, if you pair up the sniper rounds or the DMM rounds with the longer barrels, but specifically, let's say the sniper rounds now with the 18 and 20 inch barrels, you're gonna get another inch to 2 inch improvement. I've seen, in some of my testing guys, I've seen 3 inch groupings at 80 yards with the DMM, the 18 inch and 20 inch setups. Now, is that consistent all the time? No, but once again, it's a probability, right? On average, you're gonna get 6 inch groupings, and then every once in a while, you're gonna get 3 inch or even 2 inch groupings at those distances. Now, of course, because of the variance, you might also get the occasional 8 to 10 inch grouping as well, and that could be wind, that could be your trigger press, you know, that could be just, you know, your aim, you weren't on. But those variables, of course, are more mitigated the more consistent you can make all your variables. Okay, and so guys, that's kind of the pros with the different barrel lengths. Of course, is the accuracy. Obviously, the barrel length is going to dictate the build, right? If you're using a 20-inch barrel, you can't build a Honey Badger clone or a MR18 clone with a 20-inch barrel. And then, of course, you're sacrificing some weight as well, too, because, of course, if you're trying to clone your marker to resemble a real steel rifle, your hand guards are going to be longer, right? You're going to use a heavier optic, right? Because you're going to use some type of magnification optic. And so now you're adding weight to the whole marker. So this is, like I said, I haven't weighed this marker, guys, but if I had to guess with the optic and everything, and I don't have a loaded magazine on here, this is probably close to 10 pounds. You know, with the magazine, it might be 10 to 11 pounds. So pretty heavy setup, right? But once again, very realistic to the real steel counterpart. Okay, so you're trading weight, maneuverability, handiness for accuracy and consistency, and of course, probability of hit at the longer distances, right? So guys, that's what the pros and cons, the different things that a barrel length will think. It's not like we're a normal round ball, guys. The barrel lengths are going to affect your first strike round's accuracy and precision, distance capability, and of course, dictate your build and your build direction which you're going to build. Okay, guys? So guys, choose wisely. Obviously, decide which build you want to go with, what role you're going to play, and of course, you know how you're going to set up your marker to achieve those goals. Okay, guys? Hey, if you guys like that video, please give me a huge thumbs up, and of course, subscribe to the channel, guys. Check you guys next time. Peace.